CBS Sports HQ presented by Geico. Soak this one in because it is a long time until our next major. It is the week of the Open Championship, the final major on the PGA Tour season, meaning you are waiting till next April. This year, the Open at Royal Troon Golf Club in Scotland, of course, dating back to the late 1800s, hosted its first Open Championship all the way back in 1923, 8 since then, and this week will once again play host to the greatest golfers in the world. Taking a look at some of the notable tee times there. Look, you have the big names. They're kind of a little bit more spread out than other majors we've seen this year. Tiger Woods, though, back in the mix after missing the cuts at the past two majors, teeing it off with Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay at 9:37, and then Scottie Scheffler along with other Dallas native Jordan Spieth, Cam Young at 10:10 a.m. Let's welcome in two of our golf greats, Michael Brieg, Greg Doucharme here, getting us ready for Royal Troon. And Greg, I want to start with you. I was listening to the First Cut podcast, and of course, because of the time change, you could wake up early, and these golfers are already maybe halfway through the course. And you said expect to see people with scores of maybe like 5 under, and then they just drop off the leaderboard because of the way this course is set up. Why is that, Greg?
Well, the front nine is significantly easier than the back nine for a couple of reasons, and one of them is the length, and one of them is that 2 of the 3 par 5s are on the front nine. You consider in those opening holes, Michael, really the par 4s on the front nine are all 440 yards or shorter, and the longest one is number 9, which is 440 yards. So there are many gettable scoring opportunities on the front nine, and once you make the turn, the back nine is a par 35 compared to par 36 on the front, and it's also 300 yards longer. Presents a really stiff test.
And also, too, you got to understand the wind and the layout of the golf course. The outward nine and the inward nine, you really are going against in opposite directions. So the ease, whichever way the wind is blowing, the ease will be on one nine, and the difficult will be on the second nine or the other nine. So it's going to be a tale of two cities, really, and a lot will depend on what the conditions offer.
Conditions across the pond always a little chilly. I am very jealous of that, being here in South Florida. Let's talk about some of the storylines we're looking at going into this, including Rory McIlroy. Look, for him, it was a collapse. What happened at the U.S. Open, other people may call it a success, but for Rory McIlroy, it affected him so much, announcing after the U.S. Open he was going to take a little bit of time off. He is returning here looking for redemption. Michael, what do we know about what Rory's been up to since then, and what do you think his mentality is going to be heading into this weekend?
Well, he changed his cell phone number, if that's any indication of what's been going on with Rory. A lot of people reaching out to him, Greg, expressing condolences. But, you know, what he said in his press conference was, it was great until it wasn't. And it really was. He played some wonderful golf. He missed a short putt at 16. He had a lot of things going on in his mind over those last 3 holes. And you know, you finish bogey, bogey, par bogey in an Open Championship. It can leave a little residue. But I think the work that he's done with Dr. Bob Rotella, obviously with Brad Faxon, it seems like, you know, he recovered nicely at the Scottish Open, and he's ready for the Open Championship.
And the Scottish Open is a great example of just simply of the talent that we're seeing out of Rory McIlroy. I mean, tied 4th at the Scottish Open, 2nd at the U.S. Open, 15th at the Memorial, 4th at the Canadian Open. And that, of course, is after 2 wins at the Wells Fargo and the Zurich Classic. His form has been absolutely incredible. And it's lasted for many years. You know, since his last major championship victory, the guy has 3 FedEx Cup wins, numerous PGA Tour titles, and many major championship contention events in contention. So Rory has done everything except win one of these, and I really think he's going to be in a pretty good place, despite what happened at the U.S. Open.
That is the story for Rory McIlroy when it comes to Scottie Scheffler. And look, maybe Rory will have a bounce back like we saw Scottie Scheffler going from the Travelers Championship. Anyway, whatever. He won the next one. After posting a T41, though, that was at Pinehurst for Scottie Scheffler. And this, look, he's the favorite to win by all means. And fans want to know, look, is this going to be the Scottie Scheffler we've seen all season? Is it going to be an outlier like Pinehurst? Michael, what do you think about Scottie?
I think it's going to be Scottie and Scottie doing what Scottie does. And I think, you know, absent of an unfortunate situation that took place at a PGA Championship, it might be already a 2-win season for him in major championships. I think Scottie is one of those guys that he's got a game that doesn't require a lot of attention. He's done the hard work with the putting, and he's continued to stick with the things that Randy Smith, frankly, and what he and Phil have been working on with the putter, and it's just working out nicely for him. And he's got a reliable and complete game, and it doesn't take a lot of reps for him to play great.
You look at a player in Scottie Scheffler who's in the top 10 in driving accuracy on the PGA Tour, leads the tour in distance from the edge of the fairway, leads the tour in greens and regulation, and is second in proximity to the hole. He's so accurate with his ball striking. And it wasn't any different at Pinehurst either. The problem at Pinehurst is he lost 6 strokes putting.
Yeah, he didn't putt well.
And he did that because he couldn't read those greens. The test here at Royal Troon will be significantly different than the test at Pinehurst. The greens are much slower, much more benign. And like you've always said, Michael, greens that are slow and flat like this tend to benefit guys who struggle on the green.
Equalizer, no question about it. And I think Scottie's going to have a great week.
Scottie Scheffler, great until there's that one opportunity when he is it. Unfortunately, that has not been the case for Tiger Woods. It's been the opposite, where he has not been so great until maybe we see those sparks of it. Regardless, it is so much fun to watch Tiger Woods. Yes, he's missed the cuts at the past 2 majors, but Greg, what do you expect for Tiger Woods heading into this weekend? How does the course set up for him physically?
Well, I think physically it's decent. Perhaps pretty good. It's not extremely hilly as far as elevation change, but there are some dunes and mounds. If Tiger can keep the ball in the fairway, he can make the walk a whole lot easier for him. But the big concern for me, Michael, is the temperatures. They're not going to get very high. This is going to be sweater weather all week long, and that typically isn't good for Tiger's back.
No, and that's the thing that they were talking about. His opportunity at Pinehurst was it was going to be a nice level walk, and the temperatures were going to be warm. Look, I look at this through the resume that he has put together, and in large part because he just can't get out there and he can't play. And so when you start thinking about Tiger Woods, man, we all want him to play great. He wants to play great. There's nobody that's out there rooting against him. We all want to see the success of Tiger Woods, but you know what? It hasn't shown itself. He played in the Genesis. He played 1 round, had to withdraw, and you start looking at the rest of that resume. He's only made 1 cut, no rounds in the 60s, a couple of 77s that he's played, an 82 that he shot in the 3rd round at the Masters, and then a 77 to back that up on Sunday. We really don't know what we're going to get from the guy. And look, we hope that he makes the cut. We hope that he plays well, but it's a roll of the dice.
We'll just enjoy it watching Tiger Woods out there on the course. Let's go pick to win. Throw up LeBron's chalk. Both of you going chalky on this one. Both taking Scottie Scheffler. Michael, why is that?
Well, because we've been saying, and I've been saying too, that this is an historic year, and it has been an historic year for Scottie Scheffler. And so at that point, he has to win 2 majors just because that's just the way it is. But if you look at this golf course and the way it sets up, Greg, I think it really does favor a player that prefers to move the ball a little left to right. I think the greens, as they are a little bit slower, that's a good thing for Scottie. I think one of his real assets with his iron play is that he is phenomenal in his distance control, but also, too, doing the majority of his playing down in Texas, he's comfortable in the wind. So you look at all of it, put it all together, and plus, by the way, that he's the best player on the planet, it just seems to add up that this is going to be a really good week for him, particularly coming off of his win at the Travelers.
And that's a sign that his game is in great form, and it answered any questions you may have about what happened on the greens at Pinehurst for Scottie. Like I said earlier, I don't expect that problem to be an issue this week at the Open. I think the links golf is a thinking man's test, and I don't think there's anybody in the game that processes a strategy the way that Scottie Scheffler does. You combine that with those physical attributes, and what can I say? Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Fair enough. Greg Doucharme, Michael Reed, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you as the week rolls along. We get a little bit closer to the Open Championship. Taking a look at the odds to win it, both of them going with world #1 by far, Scottie Scheffler, sitting at plus 450 odds, followed up by Rory McIlroy there at plus 800. The First Cut podcast, you can find Greg Doucharme, Kyle Porter, Rick Gaiman, all of our guys there getting you ready. Mini episodes leading up to the Open Championship, including Christopher Hassel betting advice.
Great. HQ presented by Geico. Here are your favorites to win the Open Championship, being played at Royal Troon for the first time since 2016 when Henrik Stenson won. Scottie plus 450, playing for the first time since winning the Travelers nearly a month ago. If you're wondering about Tiger, don't. 250 to 1. Good luck. Let's get some picks with Sportsline's Sia Nejad. And your pick to win is one of the favorites, but one of those guys up there that hasn't broken through yet. Who is it, and why is it going to be this week?
Yeah, Chris, it's Tiger Woods. No, I'm kidding. I'm just piggybacking off of your slight there. You're right. This guy actually hasn't broken through, at least not in a little while. I'm going with Colin Morikawa. I mean, this is one of those cases where we look at him and we see that he hasn't broken through. And a lot of that is kind of the Scottie Scheffler factor and the fact that Colin Morikawa has just recently gotten hot. Over the last 6 tournaments, when you look at the weighted tee to green numbers, you look at the putter, you look at all those things that matter. He's second best, if not third best, depending on how you're doing your measurements. But the reason I have him on top of Rory and Scottie Scheffler is twofold. One, I like his odds at plus 1,600. Even at plus 1,400, I like those odds as well. But it's also because he's such a good course fit. He's done well at Open Championships before, but his accuracy is going to be so supremely important here. His long iron play is going to be so supremely important here. And then, oh, by the way, he's got a really good short game all of a sudden. Around the green with the putter, he's doing everything right. And we see that not only in the metrics, but in the finishing positions, where he's very consistently finishing inside the top 5. When you get a superstar like that is knocking on the door in the top 3, in the top 5, he's ready to win at some point. This is a nice course fit. It's a nice situation for Colin. I expect him to win at Royal Troon.
Crazy how consistently close he's been, yet he hasn't quite gotten over the top. Last chance at a major championship this year. How about DFS? Give us some good buys.
Yeah, first of all, I do like Colin Morikawa in DFS. He should be relatively popular, but that's okay because I think he's going to win. A couple of other guys that sort of fit that mold, or I'll give you one guy that fits that mold and one guy that's going to sound curious. Corey Connors. I actually like Corey Connors as a long shot. I like him in the top 30 market, the top 20 market. He is basically Colin Morikawa light. He is doing everything right as well, including with the short game, which I think will surprise some people. The putter has really come alive for Corey Connors as well. Very consistent with the ball striking, relatively accurate. I mean, I say relatively because he's not quite as accurate as he's been off the tee in previous years, but he's still up there in the accuracy department. The other guy that's a little off the radar a little bit in most people's minds is Patrick Cantlay. Please keep in mind we're playing DFS here. Patrick Cantlay is not going to be very popular. Guys like Corey Connors, guys like Colin Morikawa, well, they're going to be pretty popular. So it's nice to mix in a potential superstar, a guy that's on the rebound. You look at Patrick Cantlay over the last 2 tournaments, and he is playing very good golf. And because he's a superstar, because he's an upper echelon guy, I expect him to remain consistent with what I've seen over the last 8 rounds. He's really ball striking it. The short game is there too. It's a very small sample size, but in the superstar realm, that's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for a glimmer of what we've seen in the past. I don't think people are going to be playing Patrick Cantlay. I think he's a good course fit, and I think he's going to give you a big advantage in this game theory game we play called DFS.
Back-to-back top 5s at the Open, and the Travelers Championship hasn't played since the Travelers a few weeks ago. Bad buys. One of the guys, it was kind of like a mirror image almost of Colin Morikawa, who has come so close. He's been in final groups, and he's failed on Sunday. You're staying away from Ludwig Åberg. Why?
Yeah, Ludwig Åberg. This is a guy I had outright last week. Pretty disappointing given that he was minus 150 going into the last round, had him at plus 1,600. With all that said, I think he's a much better course fit last week than he is this week. That doesn't mean I think he's going to crash and burn this week, although I do think the short game can catch up with him. Sometimes the putter, sometimes the around the green play can catch up to him. And given that he's kind of new to these majors, I think it could go sideways for him, especially after what we saw on Sunday. But more importantly, it's not so much a huge fade of Åberg as it is I like the guys around him. I think guys like Colin Morikawa, or even if you pay down for a Tyrrell Hatton, or you pay up for a Jon Rahm who will be kind of sneaky. Even Xander, I think I like better than Åberg. So it's not that I think he's going to do super poorly. It's that from a DFS standpoint, I like so many other guys a lot better. The other guy I'm fading, Matt Fitzpatrick. I just think when we go out here across the pond and when we get to these link-style courses, we have this perception that Matt Fitzpatrick is the guy in sometimes difficult conditions. If the wind picks up, Matt Fitzpatrick is the guy. Well, this entire year, he hasn't proven that he's the guy. He's not really doing anything right except sometimes popping with the putter. And when I can pivot in DFS to a Shane Lowry or to a Wyndham Clark or even a Joaquin Niemann or Hideki Matsuyama, Bobby McIntyre, Brian Harmon, like any of those guys, I would actually rather play than Matt Fitzpatrick because the state of their game is much better than his.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, after that top 5 at the Memorial, has not finished inside the top 35 in his last 3 events. What's the best bet that you want us to place this week for the Open Championship?
All right, I want to get money in our account early, and I want to keep it international. So I'm going with a round 1 3-ball. This starts at around, I think on the Eastern Standard Time, we're looking at like 7, 8 in the morning on Thursday morning. We got Canada versus New Zealand versus Spain. I'm going right back to Corey Connors. This is a plus 115, plus 120 proposition. Round 1 3-ball against Jorge Campillo and Ryan Fox. This really comes down to course fit and who's playing better. Clearly, Corey Connors is the better of these 3 golfers, but the course fit, Corey Connors really fits the mold here as well. And for whatever it's worth, in Open Championships, it might surprise you. Corey Connors has played pretty well, better than I think I even would have expected when I was looking at the metrics. But when it comes to Ryan Fox and Jorge Campillo, I don't expect them to keep up, particularly because accuracy off the tee is going to be very important. Those 2 guys just don't offer the consistency. Now, it's only an 18-hole sample size because it's a round 1 3-ball, but I expect Corey Connors to flash in the first round, second, third, and fourth. Can't say the same for Ryan Fox and Jorge Campillo. I'll take the plus money.
Amanda, what have you researched?
I haven't researched because we've given like a million Canada facts. So I'm going with my favorite foods from each of these places.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Canada, poutine, right? Like we can agree with that,
Right.
Sia?
Okay.
Have you had poutine?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Spain,
I
I'm
just
not
said yes
doing
'cause I wanted
paella.
to.
I'm going patatas bravas, which is like an appetizer, but it's very good.
Yeah.
It's like fried potatoes
That
with an
is great.
aioli.
I've had that.
New Zealand, they have bluff oysters. I've never been to New Zealand. And then meat pies and crayfish, but
Now,
not
what is
crayfish like crawfish, crayfish like lobsters.
Bluff oyster. That's not like a Rocky Mountain oyster, right?
I don't know, man.
Okay. You can
That's it.
see on
Now I'm
Sportsline
hungry.
weekdays, 6 o'clock Eastern Time here on HQ.